Hello, and welcome to another episode of In My Experience with yours truly, Christine DiGinto. This podcast is a space where I speak from lived experience. The moments that shaped me, challenged me, and changed the way that I understand myself in the world. The awakenings, the breakdowns, the moments that cracked me open, asked me to stay present, be embodied, and be honest with myself. I share my stories not to persuade or define truth for anyone else, but to offer perspective, to explore the gray areas we don't often have language for, to slow things down and listen more closely to what's happening beneath the surface. You'll hear solo episodes where I reflect on my own initiations, spiritual gifts, and the systems that tried to define me. And conversations with guests who have walked strange, beautiful, and sometimes painful paths of their own and come back with wisdom to share with us. I invite you to take what resonates, leave the rest, and trust your own experience as valid. Thank you for being here. This is In My Experience. Welcome back to In My Experience. In this episode, I am joined by Chrys Kyng, a longtime mentor, healer, and guide whose work lives at the intersection of shamanism, astrology, and ascension consciousness. This first part of our conversation explores the deeper mechanics of spiritual healing beyond surface-level protection practices and love and light frameworks. We talk about entity attachments, energetic contracts, dream work, the evolving role of the shamanic archetype in this time of the collective change. As always, this conversation is shared from lived experience. Take whatever resonates, leave what doesn't, and listen through your own discernment as we move through these layers together. All right, let's go. Welcome, everyone. My guest today, Chrys Kyng. I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Christine, for allowing me to share this space with you. I'm Chrys, and I am a shamanic healer, ascended astrologer, ascension guide. I support lightworkers, starseeds, healers, mystics start their own businesses and grow thriving businesses, and it's all about ascending the matrix. And of course, I'm the host of the podcast, Ascend the Matrix. So basically, the work that I do is all centered around dissolving duality and density, synthesizing all parts of self, healing that on a cellular, DNA, cellular level, and joining together in community and rising, doing grid work, medicine retreats. So there's lots of things that fit under my wheelhouse. But if you know anything about Chiron in mythology or in astrology, I have that exactly conjunct my ascendant. And so basically everything that Chiron was as an archetype, or as a healer, a teacher, a medicine person, musician, artist, all of those things fit under my umbrella. So it's kind of a Chironic archetype that I embody. But yeah, the work is definitely centered around ascending, not just healing for the sake of feeling good again, but feeling good and then ascending an entire matrix and dimension. So yeah.
True shamanism.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Whatever that word means to people, that gatekeeper that the shaman is. There are many of us out there who act as gatekeepers and tightrope walkers and guides, if you will, between dimensions and that sort of thing. And so I think many of us are stepping into these shamanic archetypes, if you call it that, but the archetype that I really think many of us are stepping into now is something that is more like a galactic shaman.
Yeah.
So kind of a connector point between even extra dimensional races and that sort of thing. So the shamanic archetype is evolving with the ascension process for sure.
In some ways, I feel like that has also always existed in shamanism. And truly the nature of reality is the future is the past. Like
Yes.
it's so fascinating. I'm so happy that my realm has shifted to this kind of awareness because I am endlessly entertained with just trying to even unravel my life story, let alone working with clients and making the connections with all of the different dimensions and energetic ties and patterns and all of the juicy magical things that we get involved in. uh, I just appreciate it so much. And personally, I've worked with Chrys for the past, I feel like it's going on 5 years, but 4 years. And in that time, I have done 4 medicine journeys with him. And I feel like each one has been just at the right time and so supportive. And I had a wonderful experience through all of them. That's obviously why I continue to work with you. And I just have appreciated your guidance because you've always been honest and open and not afraid to like admit faults and not afraid to say, you know what, I think differently now, or I realize differently, you know. And I think that that's really important for everyone to do constantly to reevaluate your own knowledge because sometimes sometimes when we're connected to all of this information, we can feel like we know it all. And not in a sense, no, I don't mean it in the sense like an egotistical way, like you know everything, but like you forget that you may have locked in to how something is conceptualized and you're not able to reach the next level of understanding because you're not able to loosen your grip on well, your understanding somewhere else along the line. So it's like really the ability to change your mind. um, I've always
Absolutely.
appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the work that I do is all about changing your mind. If you've ever seen the documentary on Netflix, How to Change Your Mind,
Yeah.
many of those medicines they discuss in that documentary we use in our medicine system. So, but even beyond that, shamanism is changing the energetic or higher mind within you. There's a
Mhm.
shift on many levels with medicine work, and even the astrology I work with is activating the higher mind or the multidimensional self, and that includes the mind. And I think many spiritual people out there, if we want to call them like the spiritual people or new age people, people who are assigning themselves to a spiritual doctrine, they've definitely or basically traded in their false matrix religion, their old Abrahamic religion,
Mhm.
their ancient reptilian religion for another reptilian religion that we call the New Age. And
Mhm.
but also they have just traded their 3D belief constructs around mundane reality for 3D belief constructs around what spirituality is and what that means. So
Yes.
we have to understand that even when we have these conversations, that this conversation would completely shift and change if we were existing solely in 5D, 6D, beyond, if we were beings that resonated with those dimensions fully, like our fullest expression was there rather than being in the third density, then this conversation would even sound different because duality works differently there because technically it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
So a lot of the spiritual people, practitioners, people who are waking up, they're going to have to move through a membrane in their ascension and healing process, which will involve a lot of ego, a lot of fear, a lot of entities, a lot of different things that happen as we're crossing the 3D, 4D threshold into this fifth dimensional consciousness. And we're bypassing 4D because it is also a duality nature, even though it
Mhm.
is much more fun in certain ways, especially when you go to the upper astral. Okay.
Mhm.
I see many of you all in the upper astral healing and doing work and jumping from planet to planet. And
I know
so
you said you saw me sleeping one time.
yes, and so I go to bed, and that's the thing about the work that I do is many people say, Where'd you find all these clients?" I was like, "It was a contract. I dream about them, I heal them for free of charge in the middle of the night all the time, or I'm not healing them, I should say. I think I'm dream walking and supporting their healing, or checking in or tapping in, or also just being there. I think my avatar is also being used by many of my clients as a guide, even when I'm totally asleep and have no
Oh,
idea what's going on.
I know for sure you have come to my mind in things, and it's sort of like you'll just give your nod, and
That's
like that's all I need
weird,
from
yeah.
you. But like that was you, and I know that you just had to like pop in
That's
and be like,
so strange, 'cause as so many people have said that, and I
yeah,
want to take credit for it, but I have to give credit to my higher self and my
yeah,
energy body and your all's higher self for calling that construct, that avatar. I shouldn't call myself a construct necessarily the
yeah,
same way,
yeah,
like our Gregorian calendar is a construct. I don't mean it
mhm,
that way, but just more this
yeah,
representation of me, this higher version, this highest version of me that comes to me in my medicine journeys. I
yeah,
think is coming to people as well and supporting them, and I
yes,
hope to be as aligned and fluid, powerful, and also available as he is to as many people
right,
one day in
right.
this physical body.
Yes, I feel very similarly with my higher self. I know that she's out there, and I've heard that she looks like that bitch. She looks like a Russian mafia. Like she's just got like, long white fur coat. She's just like, putting hits out. No, no, I don't mean it like that, but she's very powerful, very confident is what I'm trying to express. But
Yeah, yeah,
that's how it's been described to me though. And I think it's hilarious. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. It's funny.
I could
Um
see that too.
but yeah, doing things in our dreams, and people tell me all the time, you were in my dream. And I'm like, what did you dream about?
I
Like,
know. I feel that
please
sometimes I
tell me.
remember, but most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
thank me up and down for it, and I say, "You're welcome, but it is very possible that I was just there witnessing something you were already doing with your higher self,
Yeah.
and you pulled me in because I many of you all look to me for inspiration and mentorship or guidance, so that immediately play. And many of my clients have Aquarius placements, false matrix FM11 Aquarius placements, and my Saturn is in FM11 or Aquarius in the false matrix zodiac, and that will basically place the Saturn energy in my chart onto your all's main placements, your rising, your sun, your Mercury, and that will pull out a sort of teacher,
Hmm.
disciplinarian authority, I should say. It
Hmm.
pulls out
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
authority role,
I call you sir sometimes.
and I accept that. I will accept madam or ma'am as well.
Love it.
So, but yeah, I think it just happens that way energetically, and it's my honor to do that. And that's a
Yeah.
part of the shamanic archetype. So, dream walking is a form of shamanism, or it is a gift of certain shamanic archetypes. That's not something I learned. That's not something I try to do.
Hmm.
But that is another example after many years of these types of examples. That's when I had to say to myself, whether people like me using the word shaman or not, or shamanic healer, I really
Yeah.
can't worry about that,
Yeah.
um, because it's a
It is.
Siberian word. So
Yeah.
for a Native American to even use that word is
Yeah.
technically appropriation. So I think if we're all agreeing that this word shaman holds this archetype
Hmm.
that we're looking for,
Yeah.
I consider Chiron and Ophiuchus to be these archetypes as well. So we could even call it a Chironic healer instead of
Hmm.
shamanic healer. But I had to
Hmm.
basically say to myself, these medicine spirits are choosing you. You do have these abilities you don't know always how to use, but they're definitely there, and they all fit under this umbrella.
Hmm.
And so you do have to sort of just say this is what it is for now until it
Yeah.
evolves into what it's going to be, which is more
Yeah.
unique to the practitioner. But
Yeah.
if we just choose shaman as the overarching word that represents all of the work that this type of archetype does in the healing realm, then yes, that is what I
Yes,
do, and that's the
I
label I'm going
agree.
to use.
I feel very strongly that that is fully, holy shamanism and not just like love and light, new age stuff, because in shamanism, it's truly honored death and rebirth and the darkness. And it has always been somewhat tied, I feel, to the galactic aspects because of the dimensions and essentially being a bridge of communication and um, energetic processing transmission through the different fields, and they've existed in every culture across every recorded timeline that we're aware of and beyond. And I think that there's a good reason for that, so
Yeah, and I
it
think
really helps
that
me feel
the
reinforced.
shamanic archetype is shifting because most of the shamans, all of the shamans that we know of today, or that these cultures that we look to today, all existed during the last 13,000 years, or the implementation of this false matrix, especially in the last 5,000 years
Hmm.
when the Alpha Draconians really took power over this planet and created civilization as we know it to be today.
Hmm.
We have to understand that the shamans of years past, or for the past 10,000 years, yes, there was a galactic nature. They are multidimensional beings. They're beings who interface with different dimensions, but they are beings, actually, the true shamanic archetype is a master of duality and a
Hmm.
gatekeeper
Hmm.
between realms, and that is technically their job or their role in the tribe. And so I
Hmm.
believe within the 3D false matrix, there has been this level of duality that has been so pronounced and exaggerated that the shamans of years past have most of their work has been around collapsing that duality and pulling people back into their neutral center zone, and then aligning them with their highest timeline, their highest body, their, aligning them with their retrieving lost soul parts that
Hmm.
are leaving leakages or openings in the etheric energy field, bringing things back into wholeness so that the person can ascend, but also just feel neutral or feel
Hmm.
positive, feel
Balance.
good, feel sovereign.
Hmm.
That is not necessary where we're going. Where we're
Hmm.
going, we don't need roads.
That's already done.
You see,
That's
so
part of the process to attain it.
a lot of us practitioners are currently mastering certain healing modalities or certain directions in our soul mission and in our business that we're not understanding because we really tapped into 5D for the past 5, 10 years because that's what everyone's been talking about. And now spirit is calling in sixth dimensional through 12th dimensional energies. And so remember, the healing process never ends, not because we're stuck in a Saturnian time loop that wants to siphon our energy endlessly and cause pain and suffering, even though that is happening.
Hmm.
There is that happening, but
There's
also
that.
if you look at healing as a permanent raising of a vibrational set point, which is ascension,
Hmm.
technically what we're doing in this process of ascension, then even in fifth density or in the fifth dimension, when your heart's fully open and nothing is wrong, right? Nothing needs
Hmm.
to be fixed. Well, where does the healing come in then? And what does healing look like then? It's
Hmm.
still a dissolving of density, but what it's not is a synthesizing of duality,
Yeah.
which is what's happening in our healing and ascension process now.
Uh-huh. That makes sense. That's a good way to also helps to visualize it too, I think, in a good way.
Hmm.
Um, One thing we were talking about a little bit before we press record was some of the dynamics that come from the love and light, new age, shallow depth healer is, I guess, what we'll call them. This is a PSA on the shallow depth healers that only deal in love and light. Um, they can't possibly understand the complexities that have tied you to the darkness. And many of us have had contracts with darker aspects for our enlightenment. And it's in my opinion, my humble opinion, ill-advised to just cut cords with what you think is a scary entity because you don't understand why they're there in the first place, and
Yeah.
then criticize people for the reattachment that keeps coming back. Well, why do you think that is? It's because the contract's not done.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's
Right.
just, it's funny. Um,
And you have a lot of people out there who have entities on them who are telling them that they're archangel this and ascended master this, and they're not. And so these people are leading with good intention, but the basically the brainchild behind their operation is false light. That is
mhm,
possible, although I'm not wanting to expose anyone or claim that,
mm-mm,
because
mhm,
someone could watch this and say, he's false light, he has an
mhm,
entity,
mhm,
don't
mhm,
trust him.
mhm,
We all can turn on each other, and it can be the Salem witch trials
mhm,
all over again if we want to. You
mhm,
know, I've had many lives as a witchy shamanic archetype, several different types, some not so positive, some very beautiful experiences. And
mhm,
I've also had some lives where I was the witch hunter.
mhm.
So I've played
Yes.
all the roles here in all the different lives. When I came from that giant star, that violet star, way out up there somewhere, if you want to say it that way directionally, I came into this realm knowing that I would take many bodies. So this starseed incarnation did not begin in this incarnation. It began in the time of Lemuria, and I think that many of us who were alive or have connections to it, Lemuria and Atlantis
Mhm,
chose to stay in the reincarnation trap because
mhm,
we only live 90, some of my lives 30, 40 years old, right?
mhm.
So
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they have cut down our DNA, mutated us, and messed with our telomeres, which is our lifespan, basically we have to take so many bodies because if we lived 1,000 years like the reptilians, we wouldn't need to take all these bodies. We would master, integrate, ascend, dissolve duality. That's why they
Mhm,
cut us down like that. They do want
mhm,
us to keep forgetting and resetting. So we agreed to come into this
mhm.
reincarnation trap. So many of us have chosen lifetimes where we were siphoned, we were infiltrated, we purposefully worked with dark forces, we worked with
Yeah,
dark forces and didn't realize it in my
yeah.
case many times.
All of that is me too.
And it
Yeah.
creates a karmic contract or a karmic thread. And karma is something that only exists in 3D.
Mhm,
Okay. It is a law of Saturn or Satan. So, karma, you don't have to worry about anyone punishing you. The Punisher, Saturn, will take care of that here. But when you actually tap out of this false matrix and out of the lunar matrix, north node, south node, reincarnation trap, you actually enter upper dimensions and start to merge more with source and out of this inorganic reality. And
mhm,
because time is not linear there, you look back, if you will, linearly to all the hundreds of lives you've lived, and you think, wow, that really happened in the blink of an eye. I knew when I came here that it would feel like thousands of years of different lives and trauma and joy and connections and contracts, but it would feel like this once it was over.
yeah,
And I knew that.
yeah.
And I knew that based on astrology, based on cosmic alignments, based on our sun, based on how close we are to the galactic center now, this was going to be a time in which this would happen. This raising of frequency would happen. So I'm going to keep incarnating and choosing. I'm going to go into the belly of the beast. Many
Mhm,
of us light workers slash shadow workers have. I'm going to go into the belly of the beast. I'm going to be born into some type of environment that will breed more darkness because in some lifetime, or one of the lifetimes, especially during the ascension now, we will choose away from that or we will choose things, and you have to have your sovereignty and your power stripped from you to take it back and have the experience of that reclamation. And this realm is all about reclamation. So we came here to reclaim something, but many of us interplanetary souls, angelic souls, star seeds, we didn't need to reclaim anything. So we had to come in and play the game. Okay.
mhm,
And we're no better than the earth based souls. We're no more intelligent than them. They're just as made of source. So I also want to say in the spiritual community, there are lots of hierarchies being born, lots of,
Mm-hmm.
well, he went through a Kundalini awakening. When's my Kundalini awakening? As if that's what you have to have. It's a
Comparing.
prerequisite
Yeah,
before
that's
you enter.
the ultimate spiritual awareness would never come from comparing your experience to someone else's, because you fundamentally understand that we're all one. But it's silly. I know that happens a lot too. Comparison, and it's like, what is happening?
Well, that's what the ego does. It
Yeah.
compares. And so our ego is going to show up. These entities feed off of our ego. It feeds off of our negative emotions. It feeds off of lack of empathy or anything within you that has service to self programs running through it. They can feed
Yeah.
off of that. And you
Yeah.
were genetically modified to have service to self programs running through you. Your reptilian brain is a service to self department within your most underdeveloped or least evolved aspect of your brain. And so
Yeah.
let's all forgive ourselves. It's interesting how these entities, false light programs, the false matrix architects, the archons, which are the
Mm-hmm.
mind parasites responsible for all of this,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how they can create such division, but how
Mm-hmm.
they can turn us against each other. That
Mm-hmm.
is the main goal. Yes, they're turning us against each other in many ways. Look at the wars, which were mass
Mm-hmm.
satanic, saturnic, mass, that word.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have another word like it, but just a mass
Genocide.
ritual. It's a
Yeah.
satanic ritual,
Mm-hmm.
G word. And
Mm-hmm.
I I want everyone to realize that it's showing up in small ways too. When you go to the grocery store, no one wants to talk to each other or look at each other or say hello, because when you say hello to people, they act weird, they act funny, they look away, they act awkward. Humans are not. We're meant to live in villages. We're meant to see the same people often, all the time. I see hundreds of people every day that I've never seen before. So I'm making new chords, new interactions, new space in my brain for people every single
Mm-hmm.
day. And that's just one aspect of why we're so tired and why we're
Mm-hmm.
so easily siphoned.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot about our reality that just doesn't flow with the actual human organism. And they're
Yeah.
doing all of that on purpose. And
I was
then
thinking, I'm, I'm sorry, I don't want to
go
interrupt you,
ahead.
but I was thinking the other day about that, just exactly that, like when you're walking in public. And I sort of went into the human mode where I shut off my peripheral, which is where I see anything in spirit is in my peripheral only. So it's like I shut that down, and I noticed myself like consciously doing it, but I noticed that I was doing it and was like, wow, I guess that's why I shut down for so long. And like that's how I do it. I just like put my blinders up and pretend like no one can see me, no one can feel me, I can't feel anyone, no one can, like, and it just isn't simply not true. But we
Right.
all tell ourselves that to like exist. It's
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
strange.
It's very strange how they've
Very strange.
separated us all.
Yeah.
They give you false connection through pixels on a phone. You
Yeah.
look very real and you're responding to me. The voice in my ear right now sounds like you, but it is not you. It is not your vocal cords that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a digital recreation of you, and I'm seeing a digital recreation of you right now. So right now, my brain is building pathways of connection towards something artificial. There is something organic behind it. But don't you see everyone staying home now because they can just
Yeah.
connect on their computer? And there is
Yeah.
something physiologically damaging about that at some point,
Yeah.
even down to a DNA
To
aspect.
our auras. Yeah, our auras aren't able to blend and balance each other when we're all separated,
Hmm.
you know. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I
Yeah.
also feel that when you talk about people cutting cords and these love and light people, let's first and foremost say that the souls that are contracted to stay within the love and light realm, bless you. We thank you. And your role is just as important. You do not need to be a
Mm-hmm.
shadow worker, a demon slayer, an archon master to be one of the agents of goodness and the reason why we are ascending, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
all have our place. When
Mm-hmm.
ants climb on top of each other to create a larger ant, you know, they will become a larger ant, hundreds of them, to reach something. Well, some of them are at the bottom, some of them are at the top. They don't see the ones at the bottom as less than.
Mm-hmm.
These up here have more work to do, these have more support to give, and everyone just knows where to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare us to a hive mind because we're not a hive mind, we're a collective mind. It is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
operate through individual sovereignty, but hooked into the same grid, fifth dimension and above, if you want to look at it directionally. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that so many of them say that they're love and light, and many of them just haven't encountered, as I did. I was a love and light person because Abraham told me if you give your attention to the dark, you'll create more of it. So not only will I attract more of it into my life, but I will create more of it for the whole collective, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually not even how it works here. So Abraham exists outside of 3D. So how privileged of them to speak from where they are. Okay. Now
Yeah.
they're there to hold
They meant
that
well.
awareness and
Yeah.
that light so
Yeah.
that we can reach that, because many people do need to be told that here's the light, come toward it, and that's it. Many of us tried to go toward that light and then encountered things, and we don't have any more time to be gaslit or told that we're evil because these things are happening. That's part
Mm-hmm.
of the program. Many
Mm-hmm.
of them will actually, archontic entities, reptilian entities will get into people, light workers, and turn against, so that they turn against each other, scare
Mm-hmm.
each other. There have been clients I've had who made me question, do I even want to do this work anymore? Because they made up a lie, complete lie about me, right? Where it
Yeah.
felt Twilight Zone, where I had to say it could just be that they're misunderstood and there's trauma and we're not in alignment.
Yeah.
There's that layer, but then there's also the
Yeah.
layer of, could it be a false matrix entity, an archon, a demonic, whatever we want to call it. People get very triggered
Yeah.
by all these words because they
Yeah.
don't know where they are in the room and in their
Yeah.
energy field and how to stop it. And I get it. But if we are not, we have to pay attention to that. Some of us came here specifically to clear all of that. And someone like myself
Mm-hmm.
actually doesn't see the devil and demons the way other people do. And I don't believe in Satan as a horned being. It is a planet, it's a computer, and it is a false matrix. And so I see things differently than other people do. And I also know that many of us did come here to help those that we would consider the witches, the abusers, the evil ones, the outcast ones of the current time. And
Yeah.
so they also contain source energy, the murderers, the all of them, whatever labels we want to put on them, whatever
Mm-hmm.
horrible
Mm-hmm.
thing that they've done, whether through their trauma, through being possessed, through having some sort of mind control program running through them, we believe that it's bad eggs. They're just bad humans, and they need to be put in jail and killed and, you know, burned at the stake in front of the town square. We have not really evolved that much in the past few thousand years. We just have
Yeah.
better technology.
It's it is very interesting that you say it like that because I had one. I wouldn't say that I had like one awakening. As you say, it's not one thing, it continuously evolves. But I did have one instance where my energy was extremely high. And I also believe it was a Kundalini awakening in conjunction with a spiritual awakening. So I forget where I was going with that almost. It's so funny. That's very interesting. My mind just got like wiped.
Well, it's interesting that you look at Kundalini awakening as different than a spiritual awakening when it is. I know you don't,
Yeah.
but the way you said it was in conjunction with your spiritual awakening. And it's interesting that It may just be that that was the awakening for
I
you,
yeah,
and that many
yeah,
people have experienced their spiritual awakening, and Kundalini was involved. It just didn't erupt. It wasn't a spontaneous awakening that
yeah,
caused 21 days of no sleep and psychosis like it did for me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? The horror
yeah,
stories and the amazing stories you hear about when people feel like they're having a full body orgasm for 15 minutes and they can't come back from that after there's a reason the French call an orgasm le petit morte, the little death, because you
yeah,
merge with source. So
yeah.
there's there are definitely ways that we look at things as spiritual people, and we put things in these boxes. Here's Kundalini awakening, and I'm just using this as an example because I've done it as well. What's this? Because there are lots of people out there who are going through spiritual awakening, but they're not exhibiting all of the symptoms of Kundalini rising. They're
Yeah,
having a mental awakening. There are different types of awakenings,
yeah,
but regardless of what's happening, you definitely had the moment in which you weren't just going to remember with your mind like many of us did. I
mm-hmm.
remember back when I remembered with my mind, when
Oh yeah,
Abraham
no,
said things, when Bashar said things, when I read ancient texts or other channel material, the Seth material. I remember
yeah,
knowing, oh, this is true, this is true, this is true. But it was not until I had my Kundalini awakening, and my even years before that, when I had chakras opening and didn't know what was happening, there had to be an auric field and physiological shift that occurred
yeah,
to allow
yeah,
more of the light in, not just the mental concepts of
yes,
what spirituality is. So you have a lot of people who have awakened to what's happening or are awake to something, but they have not even taken the DNA shift or the physiological shift or had a medicine journey that shifted their brain out of that timeline completely. And so does that mean they're
yeah.
behind? No, it just means that we're all on our journey where we are, just like
Different
the ants all
experience.
stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. No, that brings me back. That brings me back to what I was saying, because like you were just saying that through different experiences, it could be one or the other or both, and it's all sort of also the same thing. But in this instance, my consciousness shifted timelines and then returned. And I believe my higher self came into my body to protect me because I was getting psychically attacked. So, in a way, it was like my body had to respond to taking on that new frequency from my highest self. That was like, I felt shot out, like, exploded my nervous system. So, I don't know if it was Kundalini or if it was that, or if that's what Kundalini is ultimately also. Like it's sort of like
Well,
kind of all over the
Kundalini
place.
is a part of our ascension. It's a part of our light body activation. It is part of our divine feminine principle. So it is absolutely a part of all of our spiritual awakenings at some point. It's just we see other people going through what I went through or having these intense experiences, and people want that so that they can have a clear, uh, definitive idea of, yes, I am awake because I went through a Kundalini awakening. It isn't just something. It isn't just memes that I like now. It isn't just these new Instagram pages, starseed
Yeah.
underscore 777, that I'm
Yeah.
following now. I actually had a shift energetically, or I'm able to say I
Yeah.
went through Kundalini awakening. This is part of the 3D construct. This is part of being a species that was messed with on a DNA level. This is part of having a reptilian brain. This is part of the ego construct of the reptilian brain in the human right now, is that we went from a horse and buggy and corsets to having iPhones in the matter of a lifespan.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to understand that my great grandmother, who died in 2007, who was 107 years old, had never, when she was born, did not have running water. There were no TVs. There were no cars, where she was at least. So you have to
Mhm.
understand that we went from that to having an iPhone and all of this in the matter of someone's lifetime.
Yeah.
And so that can really disturb the human, actually. It's like
Yeah.
giving a child guns. in a certain way. You know, it's like we really are not ready for this, which is why we're being given it in ways not that not only make money for a lot of people, slow dripped ways of giving technology out, but they need us to assimilate into the technology, or we would have never been given it because much of it's been around for thousands of years. These Alpha Draconians have been space travelers for billions of years. So
Yeah.
the fact that they have been creating society for 5,000 years and letting us carve things out of wood and stone and letting us paint each other on big portraits, either there was a great reset and all of that is a lie, or the reptilians kept the technology that they've had to themselves and slowly dripped it out and gave it to us during the time of the Great Awakening to make sure that many of us would pay attention to the black mirror instead of the organic light.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are being siphoned right now. I've been siphoned. I have been attacked. I have been infiltrated by entities and things like that. That happens when you do this type of work that I do and you don't believe in the dark. That's the thing, is it actually served me to admit that these things were happening and that this could happen and that this might be
Yeah.
happening to me, because it explained a lot and then also helped me to understand how to defend against it, which is why
Yes.
there's a defense against the dark arts class
Yeah.
at
Yes.
Hogwarts. Okay?
Yes.
Because if it exists, let us prepare you for it, but all the other classes, as you can tell, are not teaching you those dark things. We will teach you about it, not teach it to you, but teach you about it, because the
Defense
darkness always serves the light.
against. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But in order to defend yourself, you must understand the capabilities so that you are prepared to fight back.
And the light always understands how the darkness operates, but the darkness
Mm-hmm.
does not understand how the light operates, because the dark is a mirror reflection of the light. So, yes, it
Mm-hmm.
is opposite. When you raise your right hand, your mirror reflection is raising its left hand. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
left hand and the right hand path. Okay. And so neither is right or wrong. That exists here.
Yeah.
People have these love and light people also have this, and I hate to even call them that because they have such good intention. Many of
Yeah.
them have just decided that they want goodness. They don't realize that good is something that is a construct and you can only have it if evil exists. Okay. But they want love. They want love and connection. They want goodness. Humans are naturally oriented toward the light, which is why they have to work so hard to manipulate us, mind control us, and mutate us away from it. And
Mm-hmm.
we're such
Yeah.
creator beings that we're that siphonable,
Yeah.
attackable, at
Yeah.
least here, but we're the batteries that they want to power their
Mm-hmm.
phantom matrix and their false light grids. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to understand that the love and light people their intentions are good.
Mm-hmm.
Where the
Mm-hmm.
intentions are in the right place,
It's
but they
just,
are not understanding duality and how this matrix actually operates. And they know, the false matrix architects, that if the humans give their power away to this false light, we'll call it light, even though it's
yeah.
me, even though it's the devil dressed up as Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll
Mm-hmm.
give them a Jesus and then a Satan, or a God and then a Satan, and we will be both of them, which
Mm-hmm.
is why they love checkerboards and checker floors. And we will be both of them, and then we will be the masters of duality. And so all the humans who want good will siphon their energy, and all the humans that we have been able to infiltrate and are now doing our bidding directly, well, they can come to the Satanic Church
Mm.
and just
Mm-hmm.
outright say what we're doing instead of pretending to drink the blood of Christ and eat his body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Interesting
very, very
satanic
interesting
ritual
how
happening
it
there.
is like literally mirrored. Um,
Yeah.
I think, oh geez, what I came back to what I was saying about the my Kundalini awakening experience. I didn't have any knowledge of spirituality, or I didn't even know what anything was. I didn't even know what chakras were, and when
Wow.
this occurred. So yeah, I was like, I didn't know what was happening. Um, but in retrospect, I understand. I believe that was a Kundalini awakening. but all of the like natural gifts coming on with that sort of surge in frequency and energy and having the capacity like uptick very quickly can be very destabilizing.
It
And
was,
in
yeah.
that time, I was like really seeking guidance. And I think you mentioned earlier when you're transitioning from fourth to fifth, the duality and how it like ramps up and entity attachments and all of those things, that was all happening with me. And I was seeking a lot of guidance from different people locally because I wanted to be in person. Um, and it's interesting. I learned Reiki from a woman, and I went to her for energy work. And I started to get the feeling after a while that she brought up that there was an entity, and she seemed very alarmed by it. And she basically told me not to tell someone the truth about something that was really bothering me. And she was like, there's an entity here and they really don't want you to do that. Like, you should not say anything to this person, blah, blah, blah. And I was very conflicted because I'm like, I come to you for guidance and I can't see this stuff myself, which apparently, that's not true. But at the time, I was outsourcing my power and I was really seeking guidance and I wanted somebody to tell me like, do this, don't do this. And inside of me, I was really like my alarms were going off. And I was like, I think that something just hopped into her. And I probably should not get energy work from her because I
Yeah,
don't trust who she is right now. Um, it was a very uncomfortable feeling. So like in a sense, I guess what I also wanted to like loop back in there with that is the love and light crowd not understanding how to defend themselves truly from the darkness, which is how you internally feel in yourself. And I don't know that there's any magic guide for any one person. It's very complex, but it's possible. But yeah, people have gaps, and sometimes entities can pop into people who and just having the awareness around that, always having discernment, using your own intuition, and trusting yourself. Don't ever listen to someone just because they're telling you to do something or not. Like, always
exactly.
ask yourself.
Exactly. Is
Yeah,
and that could have been the way her channel received what was happening. And
yeah,
also when we say jumping in or entities coming in, let's be very clear that actual possession is below 10%
mm-hmm.
of what's actually happening. Okay. And that's mostly reserved for children and the elite and celebrities and things like that. Actual demonic possession or reptilian possession or that sort of thing. Vril, that's when they, when it gets into your eye and it takes over your body, that whole thing.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
there's many different forms of possession. What we're talking about, what I think you mean, and
Yeah,
what I want to make sure everyone is aware of is that they're not popping into our bodies and taking over necessarily. That can happen. That's just not really what's happening. What they're
yeah,
doing is they're interfacing with your broadcast signal and
mm-hmm.
in putting a song or certain notes underneath or into, let's say you're tuned to 95.7, they
Mm-hmm.
can come in and put some things there. But we have to understand that if these entities are able to how do I say this, able to interfere with a reader, a psychic, a channel's session,
Yeah,
they have not set and sealed the space the way they should, or many of the guides that they're calling in who they think are their light guides are not actually and could
mm-hmm.
be false light.
Mm-hmm.
But they are obviously, they also have a lot of trauma or things that they still need to work through. And as someone who embodies Chiron, which Chiron with an I is the wounded healer, Chiron with a Y is the shaman, the rainbow bridge, the galactic shaman. Well, let's just honor the fact that we are not Chiron with a Y yet because we are not done with our healing process either. So if we have weak spots in our aura, weak spots in our ego, if we have deep fears around the dark and that sort of thing, that's an easy program or an easy weak spot in your
Point.
aura or
Yeah.
in your psyche for
Hmm.
them to hijack or take over, because someone whose entire work is around clearing entities or removing these entities, for them to be afraid of them in any way is your first indicator that this person's intentions may be good, but they are not healed enough to be doing this work at the level that they will.
Yeah.
We have to understand that the clients who came to my retreats 4 years ago, as you did, and then you came to one recently,
Yeah.
okay?
Like
Could you
2 months
tell the
ago.
difference?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
so my intentions were really good 4 or 5 years ago. However, there were a lot of things that I was still healing through, and I had gone through an awakening. Should I wait until I'm totally healed to start hosting retreats? Because if I look back at 5 years ago, I would say that I was not fully in my integrity or not fully in my power and not fully holding space the way that I could. And I can tell you right now that my future self, who comes to me with his drum and his bald head, when he comes to me, he feels way more grounded, aligned, sure, confident, and safe than even I do now. Can we
Mhm.
allow each other to grow even though we're stepping into roles of service? Because we know it's going to be messy, but we need to step up into service and figure it out as we go. We
Yeah.
can't spend the next 13 years getting a brain surgery degree.
Yeah.
Okay, especially when we've done these things in many other lives. So we just need to open our portals, pull in the gifts from these other lives we've lived, pull in that
Hmm.
shamanic wisdom, psychic wisdom. It's also going to come in with all the stuff that they did in that lifetime that you will
Hmm.
have to rectify, look at. It's already in your energy field, so it actually gives you a chance to release that density or to witness it and show it love and give the totality of yourself in this realm forgiveness. And all
Hmm.
of that is magic. The darkness is always serving the light. That's what I want everyone to realize, is that
Hmm.
this, all of this, even the entity, she's removing the entity, getting into her, it's all making us more clear, more aware, and it's causing all of these conversations to happen. And yes, there's messiness happening, there's fuckery happening.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And it's because we're human. It's because we're all trying to tap out of a matrix that we have been in for lifetimes, for thousands and thousands of years. We're all doing our best. And many of us have a wounded inner child that shows up in our own healing work, because how
Hmm.
could it not? Because you have many people stepping into their roles as a healer, a shaman, a priestess, a psychic, because they want to feel special. They want to feel different. They want to feel unique, or they want to feel powerful. You have a lot of shamans and healers who just want to be the center of attention, just want to be feel like they have some sort of power. And I can tell you right now that if any of them don't realize that that's what's happening and their intention is to do good, then their higher self will lead the way. And those
Yeah.
egoic constructs, those dark entities, those contracts, those unhealed parts will come to the surface as they're supposed to and be looked at. And the person will continue to take their power back, take their sovereignty, become more sovereign, and start to say,
Yeah.
that's not the way I want to do it.
Hmm.
There used to be a Metatron's cube right here on the wall. Now there's a
Hmm.
Prince symbol, because this is the symbol I use in my healing work, not
Hmm.
Metatron's cube, but I thought Metatron's cube was a sacred symbol for the past 15 years. So
Yeah.
when I discover things, it's not my job to tell you what you should believe, but it is my job to say, hey, I believe Metatron is a false light guide. I don't believe that Enoch can just grow wings and then decide to be the keeper of this sacred symbol. And, and they're all white too, like Saint Germain, just this white guy with his satchel and his little flask, walking up Mount Shasta. And I'm sure the mountain itself was like, you know what? I like blonde hair, blue eyed men. I think you should be the keeper of the violet flame. I think you should. And I think you should ascend and tell all these billions and billions and billions and billions of people how you did it, because they haven't done it yet, but you have. You got to ascend, and you get to share your secret with all of them. And it's this big ball of fire that's purple colored, and it's
Yeah.
going to save you. So if we just question and look into these things, it's quite bizarre and strange. And it's all part of a program, and
Yeah.
it's all ego driven, and we've all been there. Once I realized this is what was happening, and that the violet flame energy here in Mount Shasta was not coming from Saint Germain or a flame, it was coming from the violet ray, which is what purple rain is. Okay, so good intention. Metatron is not an archangel, and
Yeah.
I know that. I've never interfaced with a Metatron ever,
Mm, mm-mm.
no matter how many times I tried. So I understand that from my experience not to be real. So I said to my community and to my clients, this is not, I'm taking it off of all of my websites. I'm taking it off of all promotional materials, that Metatron's cube. And I'm doing this because it feels right to me. Similarly to Doreen Virtue, who had all of these oracle decks, tarot decks, and then
Yeah.
suddenly I think she found Jesus or found God or something like that. And
Hmm.
she denounced all of her earlier creations, saying that
Yes.
they're either satanic or I'm not 100% sure. I haven't heard this story in a long time,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
remember judging Doreen Virtue. Talk about duality and darkness. I judged Doreen Virtue for that because I thought she was a born again Christian who was mistaken. And if she is prescribing to the Christian religion again, it's out of fear, and that's what's
Hmm.
happening is you have this new age movement which is designed to siphon energy and is filled with dark energies.
Yeah.
And when these psychics, channels, readers, spiritual gurus, once they realize that, they the direction they have to go in is right back to the church.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at the end of the day, their root chakra, their feeling of safety, they want to find safety so badly that they just go back to what they know, or, well, if the new age is actually dark, then let me go back to the church, not realizing that all of that was created by the reptilians too. So it is possible Doreen Virtue was also being in that duality trap between new age and religion that people are going back into now. You have a lot of readers who are becoming Christians again because they're scared. They're scared of the demons. They're scared of the dark things. They're very, very scared, and it's out of survival. And that was part of the
Yeah.
program as well. All of this was designed this way, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's possible that Doreen Virtue also, it was being in her integrity once she saw these things and she said, I
Hmm.
denounce these previous projects that I
Hmm.
was making money off of. That's the thing, Christine, is when I came out and said, I have to create my own version of astrology because the astrology we're working with is a false matrix construct, it my business was affected. My business has been affected many, many times every time I've shifted or removed something or decided to go in this direction. When I decided to hold medicine on my own and got away from that cult environment, there was not just psychic attack, but literal attacks online to
Hmm.
try to, ruin my reputation, that sort of thing. And so it has not been easy choosing your truth, choosing your integrity, because I could be a millionaire astrologer right now if I had just shut up and just done the horoscopes and continued with the 12 sign algorithm. I could be so successful. But when you are in your integrity, I've definitely had ego in my day. I've definitely sat in front of a circle of people at a shamanic ceremony and felt powerful and probably was not in my space holder as much as I should have been back then. And I didn't know that though. I didn't even know what that felt like. I had to go through it and experience it. So I just
Yeah.
want to say
Yeah.
it is good that we improve, we release things that no longer serve us, and that we
Yeah.
come to new conclusions. And it doesn't mean that I was wrong the whole time. It meant that if I'm here to take down, not take down, but dissolve or dismantle false light, shouldn't false light show up very strongly if that's part of my contract?
Yeah.
So I'm not shaming myself for having used Metatron's cube for so long with
Hmm.
my music, on my music covers, and then when I became a practitioner, using it in my business, on my websites. Why not? There's
Yeah.
truth in that symbol, but there's also an overlay on that symbol that should not be there, or that represents a matrix cube energy, a trapping
Yeah.
or siphoning of energy. I said, I'm going to shift this in my world and my business because that's what feels aligned for me, and not from a place of fear, but a place of sovereignty. And also, I thought to myself, I don't want anyone who is on the same page as myself to see this symbol anywhere around me.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
this one, but Metatron's cube. Because if they know the truth, and these are the types of clients I want to attract, or they're not the ones who believe everything I believe, but who are questioning and understand false light, right? If they see that symbol, they could very well think, well, he doesn't get it, right? So on many levels, I decided to remove it, but the main reason was I don't want his energy, whatever it is that is calling
Mm-hmm.
itself Metatron, to infiltrate, touch, or express itself through my business template ever again. That is
Yeah.
part of my sovereignty. And also, I believe that that symbol has been showing up in everything that I do. So, in many ways, some of the work that I've done could have trapped or siphoned energy and I didn't realize it simply because that symbol was right there. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that's what it does. It could just represent the trapping of an organic energy, right? Rather than a
Mm-hmm.
symbol that makes energy get trapped. But I think symbols, geometry,
I
they're
think it
active.
does. When I
And it,
learned Reiki, I did not do the symbols.
me
And if
neither.
I do any
This is my
Reiki, I'm
Reiki
putting air
symbol right here.
quotes. Yeah, I don't do any symbols. No symbols for me, thank you. Because if you have to like ascribe in writing, like it's an agreement and you're making an agreement with some type of entity. And I don't believe that I need to do that to call in this
That's
frequency
right.
here. I don't
That's
think I
right.
have to do that. So I'm not going to. That's
That's
how I
right.
was always.
Yeah. And symbols are beautiful, but they should come from within you.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
this symbol is a mixture of the male and female symbol and an Egyptian symbol. And
Hmm.
that's because, and it took many years for Prince to create this symbol. It started, if you look at the Purple Rain cover, there's a male and female symbol on the motorcycle, but it looks like it's about to become this, but it hasn't evolved into this yet.
Hmm.
So this is a representation of his dual nature, his
Yeah.
masculine and feminine nature, but also some Egyptian symbols because he has a lot of Egyptian past lives, Atlantis energy. And
Yeah.
so this came from within him, right? I believe that there are certain symbols that you could come in your medicine journey to the awareness of or
Hmm.
in meditation. Those are great symbols. Ask spirit, what are my symbols, right?
Yeah.
What are the symbols that need to come through me instead of this symbol that was given that came through this person
Yeah.
in Japan?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so you're asking the right questions. However, it is okay that you use someone else's symbols at first so that you even understand how to use your wand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what happens is so many people are not connected to their own source. So they need emotion and body code. They need Reiki. They need EFT tapping. They need someone else's system that they trust, just like religion.
Hmm.
It can't just come through me. There are healing modalities I've learned, but there's also healing modalities that I literally am so repelled by, not because they're bad, but because they don't vibrate with, they could actually turn me into a choreographed robotic thing that won't allow something natural to come through. So there's been a lot of my journey where, you know, the more certifications you have, that does not mean that you're doing better or more healing work.
Yeah. It could be giving you too much language, like too many chefs in the kitchen, where
Yes,
you
yes.
intuitively, if you
Or
feel
it's
very
someone
drawn
else's
to it.
code that literally doesn't
Yeah.
match yours at all. At
Hmm.
all.
Yeah.
So you just want to be mindful of that as well. But it is okay to play. You have to put on the costume to see if it fits. And when you
Yeah.
put on a king costume, you can start to feel like that, right? So it's
Yeah.
okay to use Reiki at first and then go rogue.
Yeah.
And that's my recommendation for anyone here is take what works. If you walk into the crystal shop and a crystal calls to you and you feel it in your body, buy it. But
Hmm.
just to buy it so you can put it in your windows so that you can say, I'm a spiritual person who burns sage. Just be mindful that that is a program as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
in an identity construct.
Yes. Yes. Very true. As we wrap up this first part of the conversation, I want to invite you to pause with what came up for you here. In part 2, Chrys and I go deeper into sovereignty, integrity, and the responsibility that comes with spiritual work, especially when the tools, symbols, or belief systems we once trusted no longer feel aligned. We talk about releasing outdated frameworks, questioning authority, and what it really means to stand in your own truth as it continues to evolve. If this episode resonated, you won't want to miss the second half. Thank you for being here, for listening with discernment, and for engaging with this work from your own lived experience. I'll see you in episode 2. Don't forget to follow the show to get notifications when the next episode drops, and also just show me some love. Rate, review, subscribe, all the things, you know? Come on, guys. I'll see you next week.